Hi, I'm Scott Jeppesen. I'm the musical director for the Rocky Mountain Jazz Collective, and I wanted to welcome everyone to our presentation of the Duke Ellington Billy Strayhorn Nutcracker Suite. The Rocky Mountain Jazz Collective is an ensemble of jazz musicians from really around the region and beyond. And we've got members that have flown in from Los Angeles, members from Northern California, Sacramento, San Francisco area, people that have driven in from Missoula, Bozeman, Sheridan, really kind of all over the place. And it is a group that really is intended to focus very much on community. It's the reason that I didn't call it the Billings Big Band is I want it to really kind of take this entire region in general and bring people together, both in the musicians in the ensemble, but also with a connection between Montana State University Billings and the community in and around Billings. The first show that we actually ever did with Rocky Mountain Jazz Collective was actually Duke Ellington's Nutcracker Suite, and we performed it at Petro Hall at MSUB. This was, I guess, 2 years ago. I think all four of you were in it, and so I'm joined today by one of our trumpet players, Josh Aguiar.
Hi, buddy.
Josh flew in just a few hours ago from Los Angeles.
Yeah, from Los Angeles.
Also, our lead alto saxophonist who'll be doing his Johnny Hodges impersonation. This is Ian Vo, also flown in from Los Angeles. And then the person that everybody knows, I don't really need to give an introduction, but I will anyways. Singer and clarinet player extraordinaire, choral teacher at Skyview High School is Amy Schendel.
Hi.
I feel like I'm supposed to clap.
So this is the first show that we ever did, and the thing that really kind of intrigued me about doing this piece, and I think about it more and more of why it's kind of a perfect piece for this particular group, is you look back at Tchaikovsky's original production of the Nutcracker, and I think it was 1892 was when it first premiered, and it wasn't his most popular piece at all. It was actually kind of a piece that went fairly unnoticed for a long time until 1950s, 1960s. You got a lot of these groups that were starting to kind of do adaptations of it. And it wasn't just Ellington and Strayhorn. A lot of people wrote adaptations of the work, which kind of brought it back. But the thing that was really interesting to me is that Tchaikovsky wrote the piece in a period when composers and musicians were very focused on creating nationalistic music. So Tchaikovsky, it was important that he wrote music that was distinctly Russian. And the impressionistic composers in France were writing music that was very French sounding. In Italy, it was very Italian opera with Verdi and these guys. Yet this particular work, Nutcracker, while it's Russian in nature, the majority of it is spent exploring different musics from all around the world. You've got music from China, you've got Middle East, you've got all these different styles of music that are coming together. And the fact that somebody like Duke Ellington, 70 years later, who is not just a jazz musician, which is already a mixture of so many different types of music, but also a very well-traveled person. He served as an ambassador for the United States and took his band abroad on numerous occasions, and that he chose to look back at this piece here and do a jazz adaptation of a piece that was already incorporating all these different types of music. It almost feels like it's an ultimate piece that goes right along with our mission statement, which is to bring together communities, different types of people, different types of music, rather than just being, the Billings Jazz Band, right? So, so Josh, you're doing a lot of the trumpet solos on the piece, right?
Yes.
Right.
We're playing Ray Nance's book. And Ray Nance was I think he joined the Ellington Big Band in the 40s as a replacement for Cootie Williams. And he's best known for his illustrious solo on Take the A Train, which is still much admired and copied by trumpet players around the world. The solos on this suite aren't as well known, but they're very beautiful. They showcase his beautiful warm tone, and I'm going to be trying to play them as closely as I can, maybe adding a few ornaments of my own, but I'd like to stick to as close as I can to Ray because I don't think I'm going to top it.
All right, and Ian, like I said, you're going to be doing your best impersonation of Johnny Hodges, which is big shoes to fill.
Yeah, we've had conversations about this together, and I think it's funny that you're saying that I'm going to do an impersonation of Johnny Hodges. But I think, again, we've talked about this. I think anytime we do something like this, it's kind of finding that balancing act, because obviously jazz music celebrates individuality, and but at the same time we want to give reverence to what came before us. So I kind of want to do both. I mean, Johnny Hodges was, as you guys may or may not know, Duke Ellington wrote for individual members of his ensemble. He didn't write for saxophone. He wrote for Johnny Hodges. He wrote for individual players, personally. So, gosh, there's not another book like it, I guess. I've played lots of charts, and just reading Johnny Hodges' book is a really unique experience, and it's a pleasure to do, and I hope I find that balance, So.
Yeah, I think a lot of Duke's work was definitely very focused on the members of his band at any given time, and a lot of times you actually found where he would write pieces of music that, as his band would change, the personnel would change, that his book would change. They wouldn't play a piece anymore, or he would reorchestrate it to feature a different person. One of the people that I have to actually play his part in this one is his tenor saxophonist for many years was a guy named Paul Gonzalez. And Paul Gonzalez, the part that I will not be playing is that Paul Gonzalez was famous for showing up very late and usually very inebriated to most shows. And some of his most legendary solos came from situations like in Newport, where he had shown up late, and Duke decided, okay, well, I'm going to show him.
Is that what that was?
Pretty much, yeah. And Diminuendo and Crescendo in Blue, he created a section. It was a concert D-flat blues in between the two. And he decided he was going to send Paul out there to solo, and then just kept telling him, another chorus, another chorus, another chorus, another chorus. Wow. And it was his way of kind of punishing Paul. And it was at a point, actually, where Duke, I think that was 1957?
57, I think.
At that point, Duke Ellington's career was kind of starting to wane. It was a low point. He was the old guy, and they weren't playing as much. And he actually, after that point, Paul's solo was so great that Duke Ellington said, I was born in 1957, because that totally just reinvigorated his entire career.
I love that story. Wow.
And then on the flip side of that, there was another time that he showed up for a recording session that they were going to do, and Duke got there early, a couple hours before the recording were to start, and Paul was sitting there completely sober, warming up his horn, and Duke was so blown away that, whoa, you're here early? What is going on? So he scrapped the entire recording plan, and he just took out charts and said, we're just featuring Paul on everything. And they came up with an album that's called the Duke Ellington Orchestra featuring Paul Gonzalez. Wow. And it was all because Paul showed up early to a gig.
Wow.
That monumental occasion. So the other woodwind book that actually I'm playing some of, and Amy's going to cover some of as well, is the clarinet book, Jimmy Hamilton, who just played some incredible clarinet solos throughout his tenure with the band. And so between the two of us, we're going to do our best to try to fill those shoes.
Yeah, I'm always excited to get to play some clarinet in the big band. That's my real instrument, as it were. I love to play saxophone as well, but I sure love when we get good clarinet parts, and that's my favorite part of this whole suite for sure.
Well, it's kind of a treat, because you don't always, the clarinet isn't as large of a part of really in jazz in general as it used to be. It used to be a primary instrument, even more so than the saxophone. Sure. And then it's become, it's waned a little bit over time. It becomes something where it's more of just a double when we need a different color. But for it to actually be featured and highlighted, it's nice to go back and do that.
Let's be honest, Tchaikovsky kind of liked the clarinet when it came to the Nutcracker.
Yes.
So it's nice
There's some
to
great stuff in it.
Have some things thrown in that way too.
So, in the so in Duke's arrangement of this, we're going to hear a lot of the same themes that we heard in the Tchaikovsky version, but they're definitely done a little bit different, right? So the original Nutcracker, of course, was a ballet, but you'd probably have to dance to this one a little bit differently than you would have had in the original ballet.
You could dance to it, though.
No. But definitely some really great themes, and then some creative naming that Ellington Strayhorn put in place, right?
Yes.
So instead of the Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies, they have Sugar Rum Cherry, and
Tootsie.
yeah, Toot Toot Tootie Toot.
Tootie.
So, yeah,
There's a lot of
there's
tooting.
the instead of Waltz of the Flowers, you've got the Dance of the Floreadors.
Yes.
So it's a lot of really creative schemes. But you're not only playing clarinet on this show either.
I'm not. It's true.
What else are you doing, Amy?
Well,
Go on.
this really wonderful arranger-composer that I know, named Scott Jeppesen, actually arranged 6 Christmas tunes for the second half of the show that I get to sing on.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah, last year, when we got to December, the Symphony always does a Christmas Pops concert, and because of the pandemic, it wasn't feasible to put an entire symphony orchestra on stage, so they decided they wanted to do a jazz thing, and they asked me if I could help put that together. As pandemic numbers worsened, they realized, okay, not only can we not have a symphony orchestra on stage, we also can't put anybody in the audience, and so we have to do a live stream, and there's a lot of legalities involved in that. And so what Ann Harrigan with the symphony and Ignacio ended up coming in, they said, okay, well, what can we do? And so the solution that we came up with was to find some old Christmas songs that were in the public domain that we didn't have to worry about copyright and licensing, to arrange those for the concert.
Yeah.
And I think we did a band that was all local.
Yep.
We had a good crowd that tuned into the live stream, but we've never performed this music in front of actual people before, so that's kind of exciting.
Yeah. I was actually listening to the recordings, kind of reviewing the music and things, which is hard for me. I don't like to listen to myself on recordings, so that was really challenging. But I was listening to them and I was laughing at the moments when people would take their solos, and then the 3 available people in the band that didn't have to play would kind of like clap for them,
Yeah.
and it didn't have the same ambiance that I think normal jazz shows do, and
Right.
and that feeling that you get.
Yeah.
So it is exciting to get to perform it in front of real people.
Yeah, it's when you do a live show, there's just nothing better than having the electricity, the spirit of that moment when you finish a song and the crowd goes crazy and they're clapping or they're booing, depending on how well you did. Just having any kind of interaction at all, and that was definitely an interesting one. Some of the arrangements that I wrote and what we'll do is there's Silent Night, Up on the Housetop, Jolly Old St. Nicholas, We Three Kings, and then I know one of the ones that I was particularly proud of was the arrangement of O Come All You Faithful, which is a real big, exciting, it's up tempo and solos and the trumpets get high, and and we finish playing it and Bob, and then we sit there. There's no clapping. No, you can just hear a lone cricket off in the corner of the theater. And he was booing at that.
No, he wasn't.
So that was definitely interesting. And to relate it to what we're doing with the Nutcracker, which it's. So even if you did happen to see this stuff in the live stream, when I was writing that music, I knew exactly who was going to be in the band. I knew exactly who I was hearing was going to take which solo at which time.
Just like Duke Ellington did.
Just like Duke Ellington did. Thank you, Johnny. I mean, Ian. So what? So for this performance here, those solos are going to move around a little bit because the personnel is definitely very different than what we had before, and there's some soloists that are joining us that I definitely want to make sure are going to get to put their 2 cents in, or 3 cents, and so that'll make a whole new take on it. Even if you were one of the people that tuned in last year, you're going to hear something that's definitely different and unique than before.
And I was thinking when you guys were talking about Duke Ellington writing for the members of his band, how these songs that you wrote feel that way too, for the same reason. And I feel honored to be a part of that because, you know, you've known me and worked with me. And so as you're writing for even the vocal stuff, yeah, it's a standard tune or something, but you still have in mind what you want from my voice too, and so that's really fun.
Yeah, and that was one thing that was very important to me with each one of those arrangements when I set out to write it was, okay, I'm writing a lot of this music that if it's in the public domain, it means that we're looking at it being, it's old music, you know, approaching 100 years old or even older, and I didn't want to write a bunch of arrangements that just sounded like every other dance band chart that's ever been written of Silent Night, right? Yep. So I want to come up with some kind of a unique take on each of these. So there's some things that we do on We Three Kings that I've never heard anybody do it that way before. For Silent Night, I did a bunch of, I'll save it for the show because it's just really interesting, but I did a bunch of research and found the story behind Silent Night, and it's pretty dark. It involves a skull placed into the wall of a cathedral and floods, and it's a really cool story. And so I use a lot of those stories to kind of inspire and make me think about maybe like, you know, where that song was coming from when I wrote it.
And
Interesting.
He wrote original words in Jolly Old St. Nicholas. So just wait. We're gonna sing about what some of our band members want for Christmas.
Yeah, and to give credit where credit is due. To give credit where credit is due, now the band members have changed from before.
So I helped.
So Amy helped rewrite those lyrics. So now they're addressing different
people.
Yeah, different people, and there's some lyrics were just uncomfortable with certain band members, and so so we had to move them around.
So we put my husband on the spot instead.
Exactly. Yes. Not everyone in the band is on the nice list.
No.
So just be ready for that.
Most everyone.
Yeah, most everyone. Just not your husband.
Sorry.
All right. Well, I think that probably gets us close to our time, and I think gives a little bit of a preview of what you're looking forward to for this concert. I think the Ellington Nutcracker is going to be a lot of fun. The band is. One of the things I really love about playing with this band and this project in general is the fact that the people that we put together in the band are all just really cool guys and ladies.
And girls.
Yes, and it's always it's a fun hang for a couple of days for us to get together and put together this great music and share it with you, and so I'm really looking forward to getting to get up, take the stage finally after all the planning and just actually make it happen. And then I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention the next time that you can catch us, which will be March 26th. We'll be doing a tribute to legendary jazz composer and arranger Sammy Nestico. You may not be familiar with the name Sammy Nestico unless you've played a lot of big band music, but he's probably the most published big band writer in jazz history. He was one of the primary writers for the Count Basie Orchestra for many years. And there's even a lot of music that he wrote that he never even really got or took credit for. The way that I hear the story was that when he was in the military, he was recruited to write music for a lot of bands, but you weren't allowed to take music, or you weren't allowed to take jobs getting paid to write music for extracurricular activities, basically. So he had to do a lot of stuff and not put his name on it, so that way he could still pay. So apparently we don't even really know the extent of exactly how much incredible music Sammy wrote. So we'll have pretty much the entire same band back March 26th at the Babcock Theater, and we'll be paying homage to Sammy Nestico, great composer, writer who actually passed away last year, I think 96 years old, I think.
Something like that.
So quite the career, and known as just being one of the nice guys in the business as well. So, all right, so thanks for coming, and we'll see you on stage soon.